Welcome to no-nonsense-booking.com hosting. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set house rules properly on booking.com, and I'm not going to keep it generic. We're going to walk through every option on these screens, what it really means, and how to set it up in a way that reduces cancellations, avoids bad fit guests, and prevents review drama. A lot of hosts treat these as boring admin settings, but booking.com uses these settings as filters, and they influence who can book, what guests expect, and how much trouble you deal with on later. So let's go through this in the same order booking.com shows it. First, let me show you how to navigate to this section. Once you're logged into your booking.com extranet, you will go over to property and then choose property policies. This is the main property policies dashboard. Think of this page like the control room. Each box here affects either guest expectations, guest eligibility, or booking friction. A quick best practice before we go into each one: don't set policies based on ideal guest. Set them based on the worst reasonable scenario you want to avoid, because your policies only matter when something goes wrong. Now let's go top to bottom and left to right. First one is children policies. You will click on edit here, and the first option here is, do you allow children under a certain age at your property? If you say yes here, booking.com will show you more in family searches and you will get more family bookings. And if you say no, you will lose that audience. But you will also reduce risk if your place isn't child friendly. The best practice: only allow children if your property can genuinely support them. Things like stairs, balconies, fragile decor, no cot space. These are the usual sources of negative reviews and disputes. And then we have, at what age are children considered adults? This affects pricing and occupancy logic. If you set this too low, you may accidentally push guests into adult pricing sooner than they expected. And a common misconception hosts have is, I will allow children but make it strict in the description. Most guests never read that deeply. These settings are what guests rely on. Now we've got children rate section. Standard basically means children are treated the same as adults from a pricing perspective, unless you specifically set expectations elsewhere. And it is simpler and reduces edge case cases. Flexible is for when you want different rates for children, but it adds complexity and you need to be consistent across room configurations and maximum occupancy. My best advice is, if you're a single host and want fewer headaches, go standard unless you're very clearly targeting families and you've tested how it affects your conversions and guest expectations. And then we have occupancy and children rate distribution table. This is one of the most important parts. This is where you define how many adults, how many children, and how many total guests can actually book per room or for the whole property. And the best practice is to set numbers you're genuinely comfortable hosting without expectations. Because if you allow it here, guests can book it here and you can't realistically argue after the fact. And the common misconception is, I'll allow it and I'll message to confirm, and that is how you get cancellations or bad reviews in the worst case. And this bottom section is basically a summary of what you set. Always scan it before saving, because it is easy to set something contradictory by accident. Right, so let's go on to the next section. For that, I will go back and click on extra bed and crib options. And the first one is availability. Here, you choose how many cribs and extra beds you can provide. And the best advice here is, only add numbers here if you can provide them every time, not if available. If you say you have a crib and you don't, families will torch you in reviews. And then there is crib policies. This section is telling you that you haven't set crib availability policies yet. In practice, what matters is, do you provide it automatically? Is it on request or is there a cost? The best practice is, if you provide a crib, make it simple. Available on request is fine, but whatever you choose, be consistent and keep that in mind. And then we have extra bed policies. Same idea here for extra beds, but extra beds create more problems than cribs. And a common misconception is, hosts think that extra beds are more bookings. Sometimes yes, but often it means more guests, more wear and tear, noisier stays, and higher expectations. Now let's move on to internet at parking. For that, I will go back and choose this edit here. The first option here is internet, yes or no. If you have a usable Wi-Fi, put yes. If it is unreliable, don't pretend. Okay, so mark it as no. And the best advice is if Wi-Fi is critical for your guest type, like if you get a lot of business travelers, unreliable Wi-Fi is worse than no Wi-Fi. So if you have any doubts about your Wi-Fi, just mark it no. But it is always a good idea to have a proper Wi-Fi in all the spaces the guest will be using. Then we have connection type. Choose what is accurate. If you have Wi-Fi, Ethernet, or both. Ethernet cable is simple. Usually it is something which you can just plug into a router or an extender so people can use it. Hardly anyone uses these things, but make sure if you choose Ethernet, people should be able to connect their LAN cable with your router somewhere. And a common misconception is people choose whatever sounds best. But if a guest arrives expecting Ethernet for work and it isn't there, it becomes a dispute, which is going to cause a lot more trouble. And then you have coverage. This means is the internet available in entire property or in certain areas? The best practice is if you have seen signal drop in bedrooms, don't say entire property. Okay, keep it simple, keep it transparent is my advice. Now let's move on to guest info and check-in settings. For that, you will go back and click on this edit here. Now the first thing here is check-in time. The best practice, pick a range you can consistently meet without stress. If you offer too wide a window and you can't support it, you will spend your life messaging. And the misconception is wider windows equals more bookings. It can, but it also increases operational load and late check-in issues. Next is this 24-hour check-in toggle. If you truly have self-check-in and it's genuinely reliable, 24-hour check-in can help conversations. Okay, so people, it gives them freedom to check in whenever they want. And if you don't enable it. It is one of the fastest ways to get guests arriving at 2 a.m. and expecting access. And then you have checkout time. Same logic. If you can't allow flexible checkout, don't imply it. Your clear checkout times will reduce cleaning delays and guest pushback. And the next option is want to know your guest estimated arrival time in advance. Set this to yes if you want guests to share their arrival time. But even with self-check-in, it is usual. It helps you plan cleaning buffers and detect risk bookings. And then can guests book without providing address details? Requiring details can filter out low-quality bookings. If you've had issues with guest identity, keep this requirement stricter. And then can guests book without providing a phone number? Requiring a phone number, it is one of the simplest ways to reduce operational headaches, especially if the guest struggles with self-check-in. So I would recommend keep it always as yes. And then we have age limit. Minimum age helps you if you want to avoid party risk groups. If you're strict on parties, minimum age is consistent with that strategy. I always keep mine as 18 years. Maximum age is rarely used and can create discrimination issues. So generally best left as no limit. And lastly, you have curfew, which is tricky. Most standard holidays don't need it. If you set curfew, you need to enforce it, and that often creates conflict. For example, if someone checks in and they are following it and the person next door isn't following it, it creates that friction and may lead to problems. Instead of curfew, use quiet hours in your house rules and make it sound like you're concerned about noise and neighbors, and that's why you're setting it up, not just that you must be inside your room after this. Next is fees and charges. Let's go back and click on additional fees and charges. The first thing here is this is where you choose what the fee is. Cleaning fee, service-related fee, or whatever applies. Best advice is keep fees minimal because guests compare headline price heavily. Fees that appear later do increase the drop-off. Just think of a scenario. You're trying to book something, you are happy with the price, and when you go to the checkout screen, use something else added on that. That does really discourage people from going ahead. Next is this already part of accommodation cost? If your fees are included in your nightly stay, mark it accordingly. If it is separate, guests will see it as an extra cost. And hosts think that extra fee increases revenue quietly. Often they just reduce conversions and push you down the search ranking. And then we have payment type and currencies. Make sure this matches what you actually charge and how you collect it. And if you collect anything on arrival, explain it clearly in messaging too, because guests hate those last-minute surprises. And lastly, we have amount. Keep it consistent with your market. If your cleaning fee is high, your nightly rate should be slightly lower to compensate for that. Otherwise, you will look really expensive. And let's go back, click on edit here. And this is the damage deposit section, and hosts misunderstand this all the time. Now, the first option, which is asking booking.com to facilitate, can feel safer, but it can also add friction to bookings depending on your guest type. Asking guests to pay during or before the stay can reduce risk, but it increases guest resistance and can lower your conversion, especially for short stays. The best advice I can give you is, if your property is high risk, expensive items, larger groups, party risk, a deposit can be worth it. But for most normal listings, deposits don't prevent damage. This mainly prevents bookings or create arguments. So if you have an insurance that covers all kinds of damages in your property, try and keep it as no. And if you choose no, that doesn't mean you're not protected. It just means you're not adding any extra friction at bookings. Let's move on to access and check-in method. For that, you will go back and click on accessing your property and click on edit here. Now, the first thing you will see here is how do guests enter your property. Choose the method: lockbox, meet and greet, reception, keypad, etc. The best practice here is pick what is reliable, not what sounds most premium. And then you have where can your guests check in. This is crucial. If it is off-site, like they have to go somewhere else to collect the keys or something, you must set those expectations. Everyone hates traveling somewhere else for keys. And then you have what do guests need to know to get inside. Use clear, short instructions. Write it like you're texting a friend, not like a legal document, which is difficult to read and understand. And then you have lockbox, the brand and device. This builds trust. So if you're using a known system, list it here. It reduces confusion and late light messages. And lastly, you have alternative check-in method. Only add if it's real. Okay, hosts add alternatives just in case they can't actually support them. So avoid it if you really don't have anything like that in place. And then let's go to the next section. I will go back and click on house rules edit button. The first one is smoking. If you don't allow smoking, set no. And be consistent in messaging and your signage at the property. And if you allow smoking anywhere, clarify where. Otherwise, guests can assume smoking is allowed means anywhere, and then you have somebody trying to smoke indoors. And then you have parties. If you want fewer issues, I would say set it to no. Hosts think that no parties is obvious, but it is not. This checkbox gives you a strong baseline expectations. And then quiet hours. If you have neighbors or noise sensitivity, set these quiet hours. Even if you don't enforce quiet hours strictly, it makes expectations clearly and reduces like we didn't know kind of excuses. And then you have pets. If you allow pets, expect a different guest profile and sometimes more cleaning. So upon request can work, but it increases messages and delays conversion. The best practice is choose one clear stance: yes, no, or upon request, and make sure your pricing and cleaning process supports it. Let's move on to the 30 plus night stays. So I will go back, click on 30 plus night stays and add it. Monthly stays can be great, but they are not just a longer booking. They change guest behavior, cleaning expectations, and wear and tear. My advice is to only enable 30 plus nights if your pricing model supports it and you're comfortable with fewer turnovers but longer occupancy. And if you're not set up for it, keep it off. It's not worth the complications it may lead you into. And let's go back into the next section. I'll click on go back and how you receive bookings. This is one of the most important settings because it controls speed, ranking impact, and the type of guests you can attract. The first option is all guests can book instantly. Booking.com even marks it as recommended, and it usually increases conversions because it removes friction. But instant book works best when your policies are already tight. Clear house rules, strong guest requirements, and clear check-in instructions because you're letting bookings flow through without any manual screening. The second option is all guests need to request to book, but it slows your booking flow. And it can reduce conversion because guests don't want uncertainty, especially on booking.com when people often book quickly. Now, the important detail people miss here is request to book typically applies when check-in is in more than 48 hours. And then you get 24 hours to accept or decline. And after that, the guest has 24 hours to confirm. My advice is if you use request to book, you must respond fast. If you delay, you will lose good guests and your performance can suffer. And a common misconception here is hosts think that a request to book filters out bad guests automatically. It doesn't. It mainly filters out guests who don't want to wait. So my rule is, if your property is standard and you're confident in your setup, go instant. If your property has high risk or strict requirements, requests can make sense, but only if you are disciplined about quick response times. And that is the full walkthrough of how to set up house rules and policies properly on booking.com. The key takeaway is these settings aren't admin, they are filters. They determine who can book, what guests expect, and how often you deal with problems. If you want, I can also make a follow-up video showing the best policy combinations for different property types like city flats, family homes, or high-risk weekend listings. Please just let me know in the comments. And that brings me to the end of this video. I really hope you find this video useful. Have a wonderful day wherever you are. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more no-nonsense booking.com hosting tutorials. And I will see you in the next one.